So I would like to quickly introduce to you the application, the user interface of the Fi application. First thing to stress out is that, as you see, we are a cloud-based connected application integrated within Onshape. So what you see here is basically the Onshape uh, application, within which, in a tab, we have loaded Fi. And this is our own user interface. So let me quickly walk you through this. This is the scene where I have just loaded a simple cube. At the top of the scene, we have a set of icons that correspond to the various functionalities that we provide. On the left, we have some options for loading, saving, importing, exporting, and also some other settings. And at the bottom, various visualization options. For example, you can hide your vertices, you can display axes, rotate, etc. So the first thing that we usually say to users is that the most basic interaction is to just directly work with your edges. So grab an edge, deform it. You can actually see this in triangulation. You can see the triangles deforming. And that's basically the first thing you will want to do. And of course, as I said, there's plenty of tools. I won't go over everything now. For example, you can make a face circular. We have a rigid manipulation and scaling tool. So I can pull this out, shrink it, rotate it, and things like that. And so you see that we're talking about a very organic, freeform manipulation of your objects. We also support multiple bodies. So I can, for example, make a copy of this, move it over there, or I can load different bodies within the same model. And I can then do operations between them. So for example, here a simple bridge, nothing exciting about this. We have various visualizations and let's call it rendering capabilities. So here I have changed the material of that bit. And then I can go in and do another rotation here. And we see the result on the surfaces. And another tool that we think is interesting is the carve operation, where you can, just by moving your mouse over your body, you can slice through it, carve out a bit, and then we can remove it by merging this face with the surrounding ones, and you can quickly get to some interesting shapes. As I said, we also support symmetries, and in fact, two types of symmetries. So let me very quickly demonstrate. I will just move this out of the way a little bit. I will use a grid in order to snap and move my object exactly on the axis. And I will get rid of this grid. And now what I want to do is add a mirror on this plane. So let me hide the axis. Anything that happens on one side is reflected continuously on the other. And that's mirroring, but we also support a second type of mirroring, let's say, which we call symmetries. So this is a little more detailed in the following sense. Again, I need to define a plane for this. So let me select this plane here. It could be the same as with the mirror or not. And now what I can do is I can, let's say, surgically, very specifically select certain edges only, and I add them into a symmetry set. And now only these edges that have been added, which you can, let me hide all of that, behave symmetrically. So the rest of my body does not participate in the symmetry. It does participate in the mirroring, but these specific parts of the body that I selected are additionally also parts of a symmetric manipulation. So I can have a combination of the two for more global or more local manipulations. Now, during the operation, you will often need some reminders about how the tools work. So you get help in various forms. By hovering over any one of the icons, you get a quick little animation reminding you how to use it. And clicking on the Read More button will get you to a stylized page with more information. And additionally, we have a side pane, which will be populated with tutorial videos, additional help, tips, shortcuts, etc. This is not fully done, but before anybody gets their hands on the product, it will be. We have a search tool where you can search for commands, and we also have a context-specific menu that pops up, populated depending on the available applicable functionalities at any moment. Now, I have shown quite a bit of, let's say, push and pull and completely free-form organic manipulations, but we are aware of the need to also have precision and more specific design capabilities. So, apart from the grid that I just showed you where you can snap, we have a tool for exactly scaling your body with various options so that you can get the dimensions that you want. Earlier I showed the circle tool, but we also have a more advanced circle tool where you can specifically define your center, radius, the tilt of the plane of the circle and things like that. I showed you the manipulator, which we use for free rigid movement. However, you can also click on an axis and give the specific dimensions, so distance or rotation angle that you want. You can display the exact coordinates of your body, either the entire body or just the selected elements. That needs a little bit of cleaning up. And finally, you can also import either a reference body, for example, a model from Onshape can be brought in as a reference model or an STL file, or you can also set up a set of reference sketches upon which to base your design. So I would now like to give a very quick demonstration of the interaction with Onshape, which is a very important part of the entire workflow. So as the application launches, you can either start with a standard model to work from, or you can import something that has been exported to Onshape, or you can load a model that you've been working on, which is also stored within the Onshape document. And that's what I'll do now. The standard Onshape list selector comes up. I identify my file. Takes a couple of moments to load, and here it is. So there is a mirror here. Let me hide it for a moment. So what you see here is a relatively simple model, completely rectilinear. All of the lines are straight. The faces, though, are not flat. Let me change the appearance a little bit. Okay. Now, if I want to export this to Onshape and continue working on it there, integrate it in some assembly or do some operations on it, the way to do it is very simple. I click on the export button. I select export as Onshape Part Studio, and that's all. Now the model is being exported. This will take a couple of seconds because it's exported through our server to Onshape and translated into a new Onshape Part Studio. And in the meantime, I can continue working. So what I'll do now, I would like to show you another functionality we have, which we call ferring of edges. There it is. This tells us that the model has arrived at Onshape and is being translated. Now, I have selected this chain of straight edges, and by ferring them, what I can do is basically remove freedom from the entire chain. So I simplify it. If it were a B-spline curve, I would be, I assume, removing control points or something like that. So that in the end, I'm left with a very smooth, elegant, let's say, and simple shape. And so you see that we have a set of straight edges that go from sharp corners in this case to a completely smooth object. In the meanwhile, let me quickly have a look at the exported model. Here it is. This is it before we did the ferring. So now if I go back to my tab, and perhaps I may decide that I also want to fer this chain of edges here. I will do the same. Okay. And maybe this is the model that I want to work on, so I will export this again in order to update the model representation within Onshape. So if I return to my Onshape tab, my Part Studio, where I have imported this part, I can, for example, in the meantime, add a mirror plane like I had before between this object using this mirror plane here. There it is. Oh, and right at the moment where I was adding the mirror plane, we got the update with the new shape, the faired shape of this object that I just did in the Phi environment. So this was just to demonstrate the live update capability, whereby you work on your design and it is automatically sent over and updated within Onshape.